The most eye-opening thing I ever learned about men was from my college human sexuality class, where the professor told us that men don't actually like women. Not all men, sure, but hang in. He said that the way that our society socializes boys to, quote, become men is not to tell them how to be men, it's just to teach them how to not be women. Don't cry, be a man. Don't be a pussy, be a man. Don't be weak, be a man. Don't be sensitive, be a man. Don't like those things, those are girl things. And the tool we use to do that kind of socializing, to steer them away from feminine things, is shame. And you just can't go your whole life being told that the worst thing you could do is be like a woman and expect to actually like women at the end of that. But they are also taught that their sexual attractiveness to women and their ability to get women is a status symbol in front of other men. So they will sexually pursue women, but they don't actually like them as people. This is how patriarchal masculinity socializes men, and why shame, violence, and disgust are so intricately linked.
The reason I decided to make a video response to this lady, and hopefully she gets to see it, you never know, but is due to the fact that her video went viral, and also because what she said is within the academic circles. So when people hear about academia, they think about the science, but I'm really curious, how was the scientific method applied to figure out that men don't like women? How did you come up to this baffling conclusion? Because I would like to see the experiment and reproduce the results. And even then, like, you would believe that because men are taught in a different way, and they're taught gender roles, then the conclusion is that they will end up not liking women. Like that's not science. That's not even an experiment. Like, what you did is, like, you're having a hypothesis that there's this conspiracy theory on which all the men are indoctrinated. So your society, like you say it, Western society is conspiring at the highest level in order to indoctrinate men not to like women. Why? Why would they do that? Well, what would be the purpose? Why would that be the thing? And not to mention, do you realize the powerful role that women have in teaching men? I mean, most teachers happen to be women, mothers, they do play a role. There's a lot of single mothers out there as well. But anyway, right, so let's analyze it. If the idea is that if you teach men not to behave like women, then they're going to end up not liking women. Okay, but aren't you teaching women not to be like men? I mean, isn't gender role a thing? So if you're teaching men to be different than women, aren't you teaching women to be different than men? And if that's the case, do you, lady, hate men? I mean, right? Because like that would have to be the same conclusion. But not only that, we also teach people not to behave like children. So, for example, when you reach a certain age, your mother tells you, hey, can you please stop sucking your thumb? Or she simply flat out tells you, hey, can you stop acting like a child? And it's especially during that transitioning phase in teenage years where the child becomes a man or the girl becomes a woman. That is being really hardwired into your brain. Like, there are certain things that you used to do which are unacceptable. Now, according to this university professor, according to the academics, this type of behavior would make adults not like children. I mean, it's ridiculous. But it is what academics is nowadays, just unproven hypothesis. Because it sounds right, it must be true. It's kind of like the same video games cause violence. I mean, it kind of sounds right. If someone plays violence and they're attracted to violence, they must be a violent person. But in reality, when they actually did the study and when they actually did, the real scientists came up and they actually did the experiment that they tested, it turns out that no, that is not the case. Like, people can play violent video games without being violent. In fact, violence overall has dropped since violent games became a thing. Now, again, it makes sense. Like, you could kind of say that, yeah, I mean, it's reasonable that people who play violent video games would do violence, but in reality, that's not the case. Number two, this is really annoying because I keep hearing it all the time, is the idea that society teaches men about beauty standards. All right? Like, there is a very ancient saying that our grandparents figured it out. Your cock has a mind of its own. Like, you don't choose what you are attracted to. There is absolutely no way. Like, the idea that society can indoctrinate you into being attracted towards something. It's the same idea that the Christians have about gay conversion therapy, right? Because you have like the gay man who's attracted to something, and we can somehow like use psychology and psychiatry or religion or whatever and choose that attraction into what's considered appropriate. And the feminists want to do the same, except they're like, okay, so because men are attracted to what is considered the standard of beauty, we can use social pressure to make them attracted into something else. It doesn't work. It will never work. You can't choose what you're attracted towards. No matter how much you try to rationalize it, no matter how much society tries to drill it into your head, you are attracted into what you are attracted, period. I mean, you can either act on that attraction or you can choose to act against it. But at the end of the day, the attraction stays the same. So, for example, if I were to see an elderly lady, a cougar, who's a multi-millionaire, and she wants to marry me, I would not be attracted to her, but I could make like the rational decision, I mean, she is a multi-millionaire, isn't she? So then you can, like, even though you're not attracted, you can force yourself into a relationship. But like that is not what we're talking about, right? Or how men in prison who are straight and they're imprisoned, they may end up having the boot sex in prison because they have no other option. But I wouldn't consider them necessarily gay. Well, I mean, what they're doing is gay, but it's not like the same like a gay man who is attracted into other men, right? Like that is a completely different thing. So, I mean, if they're given the choice, they would obviously choose the woman. In fact, some of them are even married. But that's my point, right? So when it comes to attraction, it's not society that decides what is and what isn't attracted. And this whole thing where we tell men not to cry, it's for their own protection. And you don't even need to be told not to cry as a man, because you realize what happens when you cry. It's the same thing what happened when Jordan Peterson cried. It's the same thing what happened when Kyle Rittenhouse cried. It's the same thing what happened when Kavanaugh cried. It's the same thing what would happen if Donald Trump would have cried. I mean, these people who ended up crying in public were viciously attacked. I mean, the moment they showed the small amount of weakness, they were viciously attacked. Who attacked them? Most people who attacked them were progressives. Like, yes, feminists and social justice activists, the same people who said men should cry, the moment they saw a man crying, they viciously attacked them. So that's why men don't cry. That's why we need to toughen up, because there is no safety net for us. Like, no, we do cry, believe it or not. But first of all, we generally like don't feel the need to cry that often. But secondly, like when we do cry, we don't do it in public. We do it in places where we're surrounded by our very close friends and we're surrounded by people who understand us, because the public is vicious. You see what happens. Like, how many other men do I need to see crying before I realize that it's not a good thing? And this is not like other men attacking them. Women attack them as well. And again, it's mostly progressive. Like literally the same people that say, oh, men should cry. So that's why men shouldn't cry, because society is more understanding towards women who cry. But when a man cries, no one cares. And I generally start to think there's malice on the part of these social justice activists, because they want men to cry just to attack them. Literally, that's it. Now, I just want to point out something else, which has to do with the attraction from women. I mean, as a man, you get to realize certain things in life are dictated by what women like. So, for example, let's say you're a pervert. Like you have drool coming out from your mouth the moment you see a titty. And women are disgusted by perverts. I mean, I don't know if society tells them to be disgusted by perverts, but they are, right? So what happens is that if you're really that type of guy, like you're drooling after women and you like to sniff the chair after she gets up and whatnot, no woman is going to want to have anything to do with you. Now, humans, believe it or not, they like to have companionship. So it's not about the sex. It's about like you want to have companionship. So you're going to realize that unless you change your ways, you're never going to have a date. You're never going to have a woman looking at you. So you start realizing what you're doing isn't working. So you start changing your behavior. You're realizing, all right, well, maybe I need to start making eye contact. Maybe I need to stop staring at her cleavage. Maybe I need to behave accordingly, right? But unfortunately, you have the social justice message. It's like, oh no, just be whoever you want to be. Just behave the way you want to behave. So they're lying to men with this shit. right? Like, real men aren't perverts. I know gender roles are bad, but like, hear me out, okay? Stop it. Get help. And this is just one example. There's other example, like weak men, right? If you're a weak man, you're going to notice that most women don't like you. Same if you're introverted, right? If you're incredibly introverted, if you're incredibly shy, good luck finding a date, considering that you will have to make the first step. So it's most women preference that shape men. If women would love perverts, I guarantee to you, within a generation or two, everyone would be a pervert. Why? Because that's what women would want. And I'm pretty sure women behave in a way that is also encouraged by men. Like, if men have certain preferences, but not all men, usually like the top 5% of men, you know, if they would have certain preferences, yeah, women would change in order to meet those preferences. I mean, never before in human history have we lived in an age of more fakeness. And what I mean by this is that despite the fact that you see various beauty albums and catalogs being infested with social justice, and it's like fat is beautiful, and you get to see plus size models everywhere, and everyone is like fat acceptance, and you have like all these push and movements. Despite all of this, you look on Twitch and you look at OnlyFans and you see women that use tons of makeup. They also use filter, they use cosmetic surgery. I mean, all of these three fakeness all together. So what can you say? My opinion is that no, men do not hate women. Men and women are different, and it's a good thing because they're meant to complete each other. A man is supposed to bring what a woman doesn't have, and a woman is supposed to bring what a man doesn't have. And that is the beauty of a relationship. That is how they get together and they combine the energy. And this is some Eastern philosophy type of shit, by the way, which I'm saying. This is part of yin and yang type of mentality. So I'm even going to the Eastern Hemisphere. So you don't say that I'm talking from my cisgender, heteronormative, patriarchal ass. Like, unless you want to say that the Chinese are also suffering from the same problem, and the Japanese and the Koreans and all of that. Don't make me go to the Quran and tell you some Muslim knowledge then. If you're not going to be xenophobic with the Eastern philosophers, don't make me start quoting from the Hadith or from the Torah. Because then you don't want to be Islamophobic or anti-Semitic. Anyway, right, let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.